I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
And this is Crusher Convo. And welcome to Crusher Convo, where we're crushing the conversation one episode at a time. I have Duncan Fraser with me today, an OG lower decker from the OG Enterprise. Welcome, Duncan. But before we get to talk about you on Enterprise, I want to know more about Duncan. Okay, so I know you were born in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Mm-hmm. And so as a kid, what did you want to be growing up? Was it to be an actor? Was it something else?
Woo! Big questions.
Going back.
First instinctive answer is a Jedi. That's really what from like early on, right? Like I was exposed to the whole other Star franchise at a very young age. I think that if I'm being super honest, probably the earliest profession that I thought, I'd want to be that is actually a soldier, like military type of thing. And I kind of held on to that a lot over time. I ended up not actually joining any branch of the military and have a lot of respect for them. And we'll get into my Letter Decks group and how it touches on that later. But both my grandpas served in World War II, and I have, family and friends that were military. And I was kind of into war movies when I was young too, in addition to sci-fi. So yeah, I think there was that, but there's a whole lot more like as I get older.
Oh, I bet. My husband's like a fan of like the history of World War II, so he's always enjoying those movies, Dunkirk, things like that. And but he's also into sci-fi, so he loves Alien. Alien is his favorite movie, of course, Star Wars and Star Trek, and it's his fault that I'm here because of his love of TNG.
That's right. I remember now. Yes.
Yeah. He created a monster. This is what happened. That's what I tell people. But besides Star Wars, was there any other sci-fi that you enjoyed as a kid, or was it strictly like Jedi and Star Trek?
No. I had a good mix actually. Star Wars was the earliest. I was 2 when my mother took me to see the first one in the theater, so that's gonna date me a little bit. But I was in my 20s on Enterprise, so there's easy math there. But also I grew up watching reruns of Buck Rogers on television. So that was like very, memorable, formative for me. It was only a few years, like I wasn't even 10 yet. I think it was like 8 years old when my uncle showed me Wrath of Khan. It was playing on television. So I got that was my first exposure to Star Trek. And I was hooked after that. Like, shared trauma about ear bugs aside, okay, I was hooked. It was really good. So that also, Star Wars did its final thing for forever in 1983. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the Star Trek movies with the original cast just kept on going, right? So I was very into original cast Star Trek, and I love the whole story, the Genesis arc of 2, 3, 4. I'm learning as I get deeper into the depth and breadth of fandom of Star Trek that I am a little bit of a troglodyte in my particular tastes, because I like number 3 better than number 1. Okay. Might make some enemies saying that, but I had, those are probably the biggest ones. And of course I loved Aliens and sci-fi, like Predator, because Predator was kind of like a Vietnam War film, but with a killer hunter alien, just super rad. Loved that. RoboCop, I really loved a lot. Yeah, I'm a sci-fi fantasy guy. Lord of the Rings later, but good stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, my husband also, Blade Runner was a big one for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely enjoy those kind of stories, right? Especially those
Mm-hmm.
that you
Mm-hmm.
can just like have that imagination about, which I think is what Star Trek and Star Wars really touched. It's funny how you said 2 years old. Now, I was born right after Star Wars. I was born in 85, but my brother was born in
Oh yeah.
77. So I used to watch him play, like pretend he was a Jedi. And I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was great. Like that was my introduction, but I didn't know anything about Trek until I was an adult. But as you said, understanding the fandom a little bit, you're kind of like, okay, I could dig this. This is cool. I still
Yeah.
Wars is still Star Wars is still, part of my life, but Trek can be there too.
Absolutely. And
But
there's been
y-
such a lot of bad Star Wars, which I won't get into because there are a couple of topics that I will talk someone's ear off about. And if we get into the prequel trilogy, that is one, and it is not pretty. I love Star Trek. That's been consistently good. There are things to like in most Trek, I find.
yes.
I'm even enjoying Starfleet Academy. It's its own thing, but maybe that's another story. I don't know if you want to get into that either today. I'm
No,
anxious to see what
what?
you want to do.
I love Academy. I think it's great. I have not watched Discovery yet, and so I'm kind of going
Ah,
backwards.
okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I'm getting a lot of hate on my comments of just how much it sucks
Ooh.
and it's woke and this, and I'm like, guys, get off my feed. I don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you
it's
can review
yeah,
bomb. You
that's
can.
it's
Everyone has
going
their
around.
opinion.
Everybody's entitled, right? Like that's fine. That's
Right.
fine. But
That's
like
fine.
being hateful towards other people, like talk trash about something because you don't like it, whatever you want to do. But like it's a little
Uh-huh.
bit over the line if you're telling someone else they're wrong or bad because
Right.
they like it, or vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. Spirited debate is great. Difference of opinions, great.
Mm-hmm.
IDIC all day long.
Right.
But like, yeah, just hatefulness, man. We need less of that. And I feel like Star Trek can be a safe place, but it's
That's
coming out. It's coming out.
it sure is. And it's and like you said, I'm not alone. Like we're seeing all the podcasts and all that stuff who are
Hmm.
getting this stuff, but it's just like, all right, cool. You don't like it. That's your opinion, but don't be blasting my thing saying how wrong I am. Whatever. I'm just like, you do you.
Right.
I'll do me.
Right.
It's fine.
Right.
Now,
Yep.
after wanting to be a Jedi, you did go to school at Asbury College with a degree in media communication, emphasis in film studies. So, was
Uh-huh.
acting your goal here, or was it something else you wanted to do in entertainment?
Yeah. Wow. Another big question. I feel like we should have a therapy session separately.
Off
So
camera, no Patreon. Got it.
I know. What you don't get from seeing the end result. By the way, these days it's Asbury University. They upgraded since I graduated 20 something years
Okay,
ago.
nice.
Lovely school, middle of Kentucky, tiny little thing, but robust media program. So I kind of had this whole journey going through college. I went to 5 different institutions of higher learning, and Asbury was the final one. And I caught the acting bug when I spent a semester going to the University of Kentucky. Ironically, Kentucky was where I grew up from age 10 to teenager. Escaped, circumstances brought me back. That's the short version. And so I did a little elective acting 101 because like I registered late and there were very few electives left, and it was like that or underwater basket weaving. And I'm like, as strong as the tradition of underwater basket weaving is, I think I'll try the acting because I had always been a film buff in particular. I like a lot of shows too, but like movies just always were kind of the format that I really like connected with, that spoke to me. So I did that. And once that was caught, then I'm like, well, I know I don't want to do business management, which is what I had more or less been pursuing up to then. A little bit of computer networking stuff too. But Asbury, as it turned out, had not only state of the art at the time facilities to learn production, video production, but also they partnered with another program that was based in LA where you could go for a semester called the Los Angeles Film Studies Center. And in that program, not only did you produce a few short films, but you also got to intern at some various company in Los Angeles. So it was exactly right. So at the time, I was focused on acting. To kind of get back to your question, I had been doing plays with Asbury before I enrolled there, because they had open auditions, because it's just a very small, regional place. So
Right.
I had done probably 2 different productions with them before I enrolled, and so been building that. So when I landed in LA, then I was pursuing acting. My like sort of big pie in the sky goal that never really materialized was to be executive producer, right? Like some creative control. I like storytelling, but like acting really, it's my first love. I connected with that, and I think that that's really like my sweet spot, if I'm being honest with
Nice.
myself. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's cool. And I always hear that where, a lot of the times you go to college for one thing, but then the acting bug kind of just gets you and you're like, oh,
Yep.
this is cool. I like this.
Yep.
And you never
Yep.
realize that that's what you want to do, which is nice. That's what college is about. It's for you to figure out what you want to
Yeah.
be and do and stuff like that. I didn't get to finish college because it was just expensive. I was very close.
Yes.
But my career now, though, is a lot different than what I was going to school for. And then I kind of learned, like, oh,
Mhm.
I could do this podcasting stuff and media, and so because that's now a big thing. And so,
Oh,
yeah, I
sure.
totally,
Sure. And
totally get
that's
that.
another thing. Another thing that happens to people, exactly that. You go and get a degree in one thing, maybe a lot of training, maybe an advanced degree, and then you end up doing something professionally that's nothing to do with that. And that it happens.
It
But here
happens a
you are,
lot.
having fun.
Having fun, yep. And that's the whole point, right? Have fun,
Yeah.
positivity, IDIC. Let's just showcase what Trek
Hmm.
is. But speaking of Trek, let's fast forward. You land the role of Ensign Walsh on Enterprise. So how did that happen?
Oh
How did
yeah.
that come to be? And also, please, I made the mistake of calling you an extra, and you were like, "Whoa, whoa!"
Ah, yes.
That,
Yes.
and Larry Nemechek also made the mistake too, so I'm not alone. But also
No.
play
It
extra
really,
and
like,
background actor.
yes. So being completely fair, this is a point that my group Letter Decks that I founded, which I assume we'll get into, is
Mhm.
trying to sort of like affect in the zeitgeist of film and fandom, where it matters a bit more actually than in production aspects. And that is because Larry actually educated me, as he does, in the fact that there was a separate guild that covered extras, and the word extra was actually in that title. And I'm not going to pretend like I know that, because that's a Larry thing, but fair, right? But particularly one of the members of our group was like, I don't like extra. Like, that just sounds like you won a contest or something. And I was like, oh, I never really thought about it, but that makes a lot of sense, because you can have in your production any random person that walks through the background, right? And they could be there one day, less than one day, and who knows if you ever see them again, right? But a background actor, particularly on a show like Star Trek Enterprise, and I'm guessing that all Star Treks kind of have this general mentality, you can't have just anyone randomly like on a Star Trek stage. There's a whole, fans do weird things kind of security level that production needs to at least do some diligence, to check out. And so once I got in because I was a security guard at Paramount Pictures at the time. That was my day job. And I came on at Paramount right after they, basically in the middle of season 1 of Enterprise. And they also happened to be shooting Nemesis at the time. So that was a whole other thing. I saw all of the like TNG cast around and my guard
Nice.
duties. But one of the other guards that had been there a long time introduced me to Brandon Braga one night when I was filling in for someone at the main gate, and Brandon was leaving, and they had a relationship. And so I got on as a background actor. And it can go a lot of different ways when you do that. But this show, coming back to the idea of background versus extra, to be a regular ship background person on Enterprise, you had to, get fitted for an outfit. You had to be like vetted to some degree. Someone from production would interview you and just make sure that you were cool and how you looked and like all that, and fit this jumpsuit and that sort of thing. But then they also required that all of us be in the Screen Actors Guild, which is not the normal thing. There's a bunch of rules I won't get into, but when you do a background casting call or call for extras, the union requires that you have X amount of people who are definitely SAG that get called in first. And then it opens up to you having non-union people. And there's a way for those non-union people to become union by, union person calling out or something at the last minute, and then you get their pay card, and at least that's how it worked when I was in. So all of us, that anybody you see on camera that has the jumpsuit on and is on the ship is in the Screen Actors Guild, which means you are serious about acting, right? Not asserting that any particular level of skill, but it means that you came to the entertainment industry with the intention of acting, did whatever you had to do to meet the requirements to get in the Screen Actors Guild, and then pay the, for me at the time, exorbitant fee to get in. And then you have that actual union card, and then you're paying dues, right? And so that's different than having random people. And the more you do, and if you get featured in all of that, you're acting. It's actually acting. Your face is on camera. I can tell you several different episodes I did where I was actually emoting. And if I hadn't done it right, they would have switched me out, right? So that's kind of what we're going for, is a background actor is a little bit different than just an extra that could be any random person that's not particularly pursuing acting but needs a little extra income. No shade, but just, it could be a person like that, or it could be a contest winner, or any number of things. But yeah, background actors, all of us.
But it's important though, because the one thing that I've learned as I've gone into podcasts and learning more about Trek is that it's more than just the main cast, right? We're talking directors, producers, the makeup, the cinematography, the background actors. It's all one. I know people only talk about the main characters, but the main characters could not do their job without everyone in front of the camera and behind the camera. And this is why I love following Larry, because he has all of those cool little stories and things like that. And, and we see some background actors in TNG, like Tracy Coco, who is Lieutenant J. And then there's,
love her.
There's that one nurse, with Crusher, who's, Nurse Martinez, who has been there from season 1 on, had only ever said one line in the entire 7 years, but it's hey, it's Nurse Martinez. You know what I mean? So
right. Yep.
It's always there. They are part of the whole, because it would be like a missing puzzle piece, in my opinion, if you didn't have those characters to interact with. Now, when it comes to that, though, I'm curious about how do I say this? When there are, them directing the leads and being here's your script, this is where you have to be, this and that. What's the difference for the background actor? Is it kind of the same? Is it kind of it looks like choreography to me, a little dance, trying to make sure everyone's in their right line of sight and movement and the little X's on the floor.
Yeah, no, great question. X's or T's, right?
Yeah.
It's very different for background people. On a typical day, there's the whole trope of if you're a big actor, you have a trailer, right? That's actually something that connects to union rules. You have to have a place that's private that you can go to, basically relax and take your breaks, right? You have to have someplace other than just going outside the stage and standing around if you are hired for a certain level of job on a production. For background, that piece isn't included, because there could be a lot of us and it's just a little bit of a strain on production. Reasons, right? Negotiations. But we would typically bring our own chairs. And I did background on a lot of things other than Star Trek. Okay. So I had my thing down. By the time I got to Star Trek, I had my folding camp chair, and it was a fancy one that has a footrest and a drink holder and stuff, because you were put into, or just an assistant director would be okay, all the background, this is holding for the day. And it's this invisible rectangle that's on the side of the stage that's out of the way of where they're having to move equipment and actually do the production that day on whatever set, right? So there would be a group of us just like sitting in our chairs, and usually the first thing we would know about what we were doing in a given scene is they would say, okay, background, come to set, and we'd all go, and then someone would start placing us. Usually a second assistant director was responsible for moving background around, but like the first assistant director would probably do that too, and depending on the sensitivity or closeness of a particular background actor to the camera or to the main cast, they would, maybe director would get involved. But it was always kind of everyone would be ready to do the thing, and then they would sort of place background where they needed them to be. And like we all just had our own, like, okay, I walk from here to there and I'm like tapping on a pad. Cool. Or, whatever it was. So definitely a different experience. Yeah, but it caused it can cause confusion, right? Because if the whole company, I'll just use that collective word, it's a little bit of a stage term, but cast, crew, everyone has been working on a scene for the past 30 minutes, an hour to get the blocking right, to get, the lines going right, to get the lighting correct, to get the camera movement right and all that. They have it down and they're ready to go, right? And then you bring the background in and we're like, what's going on, right? And so there can be a disconnect there in that we don't know what we don't know. Great case in point, the episode Regine. I was one of the two guys that after Regine turned out to be, spoiler alert, turned out to be an actual like plant that had massive kung fu skills and was trying to steal data and take it back to the Zindi, busted up some people and then came to the transporter and is trying to call the ship. I'm one of the two guys that comes in right after Archer, comes around the corner and is like leaving so soon. And then like two guys come in and I'm on the left. So we were doing that shot and I'm, we're rehearsing. And so we were told, come in, look mean, like she's just done all this stuff and like she's dangerous. So like, hold your phase pistols on her. And so we did that. And then lines. And Scott says, take her to the brig. Now, the people in the room included me, another background guy, Scott, and the guest star playing Regine. So it had to be one of us two, but neither of us had been told to do anything of the sort. So we kind of just like we're looking, and we both kind of look at each other sideways, and of another beat passes, and I was just finally like, no one said anything. Like a lot of times if you need adjustment, the first AD or the second AD will yell from offset like, go up there and pull the lever or something, whatever's happening right there. Right. So we were sort of waiting for that, but nothing happened. So in my mind, I'm just like, fuck it. So I walk up and, using my, on the fly acting knowledge and all of that, like lens is right here, Scott and the lady, I walk straight up and put my face right in the lens, but I'm looking at her and I know what the shot is of them because I've been just paying attention. So I cheat the phase pistol up a little bit so it's in the shot because that's a little more exciting too, right? And I've got stage combat training and everything and experience by this point. I grab her by the arm, half beat, and then, looking at her all mean and then walk out, right? And they're like, all right, cut on rehearsal. Let's go to one and let's roll it. So I would like pull the first AD aside and was like, was that okay? Like nobody told me to do that. I just kind of like winged it or whatever. He's like, did anybody tell you not to? I'm like, no. And he's like, do it again.
Nice. You created your own little moment.
I did.
And I've been told like you can't really like improvise on the Trek set, especially back then. So that's kind of cool that that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a chance moment. It was a chance moment. And I just kind of went with it. And, fortune favors the bold or whatever, right?
Right. Oh my goodness. But no, that's so cool. But was there anything in your time on Enterprise that impacted you in some way, like advice or something that you saw another actor do that you're like, oh, that's something I can, take with me?
For sure. I'm going to have to join the ranks of everyone who talks about how great Scott Bakula is, because Scott was, not only a good leader on the set, but also just like very personable, did not act like he felt he was better than anyone. And as a background actor or as a security guard, you get that a lot, because in fact, wherever you're working at the time as one of those roles, everyone else on the set is more important than you, right? And you have to understand that, but there's a difference in an attitude of someone that thinks that and doesn't think that about you as an individual real person, right? And so there was one night when like it was late, I was standing around outside the stage, Scott happened to be just like taking in some air, and it was just the two of us out there. So I just went up to him, and I had seen how he had his wife and kids visit him on set, and how he was very intentional about having them be there so that he could spend time with them. And I, at the time, was thinking about, relationships and wanting to get married, as you do when you're in your 20s, or at least I did. So I went up and asked him some advice about relationships and everything, and he gave me like some really good answers, some good wisdom about that. And I just always remember that. And I remember the advice, which I later totally disregarded, but I'm happy. And things worked out well.
Good.
But that was an occasion that definitely stuck with me. Was that one with Scott? Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I've only heard wonderful things about Scott Bakula. So, and I even got into NCIS New Orleans, and like, I don't know, he's just such a good actor, and with emotions and the character, and they're all different. Like, we all grew up with Quad and Leap, obviously,
right.
and then having him on Star Trek, and then, now this, it's just like, and then when he showed up for Vegas this last time, I mean, everyone was so stoked. And of course I couldn't get away because I had my table, but it was just so cool to see him be there and just interact with fans in that way, because we just don't get to see it often.
Yeah, so and I got really to see clips of that, and I missed him too, because I was there. You and I met there, but I had scheduled to leave later on Sunday, thinking, okay, I'm going to be there for like basically everything. But they added Scott, as you know, at the last minute during the convention, and I wasn't able to switch anything, so I missed him by that much. Being able to like actually see him possibly say hi or something, right? Elusive, but hopefully this year.
Yeah,
we're
hopefully
going
this
to
year.
STLV again. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be there, because isn't it the 25th anniversary or 30th or something like that for Enterprise? Correct. So yeah,
25th anniversary.
25th. Yeah, I know it's going to be 40th anniversary for TNG next year. So we're hitting all these milestones in 60, obviously. Nice. I know. Yes, so excited.
Of course.
But let's talk about your group that you were talking about, Letter Deck. So explain to my listeners what this group is about and what your goal is.
So the group is about having background people who were on Star Trek Enterprise get to tell our stories as well. And it came about because I moved with my family right after COVID out of Los Angeles after a 20-year career in the entertainment industry. I got stuck behind a desk around 2008 and just didn't get out from behind it. No complaints, because my life has been great. I have a wife, I have a little kid, and we moved to Washington State. And so, when you step away from something big in your life, if you've ever experienced that, I don't know, you start reminiscing, reflecting on where you've come from, and where you are now, and what were the good things and what were the things you wish you had done differently, and all of that. And because I had done Star Trek so long ago and had gotten away from acting, even if I hadn't, it was, when you say I had a background character on Star Trek 20 years ago, nobody cares, because even though it's Star Trek, it was a background character and it was a long time ago. It doesn't have anything to do with what you might be able to do now or anything like that, right? And that's Hollywood. Outside of Hollywood, it matters forever, right? And I was fortunate enough to have the name Ensign Walsh, and I got that spoken on 2 different episodes, and I got a speaking part on the episode Bound in season 4, the one with the Orion women on it. And I had a lot of featured shots in many episodes. So I love talking about it, but like my friends in LA that I had come up with, they had heard all the stories, they knew all the things, so there was nothing like new. But once I got here, my mindset started to shift, and I'm like, how, I could go to conventions and talk about this stuff easily, but how? Like, what's my vehicle for getting there? Because I'm not a big name or anything, and I can't very well go to some promoter and be like, hey, I think you should have me at the convention, because that is hard sell. So I'm like, I was also influenced by my brother retiring from the Air Force. He had a 20-year career in the Air Force, and here in this region of Washington around the Seattle area is a lot of retired military. So I kind of put those two things together and was like, you know what? If I could, and with others that worked on the ship, we could put on clothes like we are veterans of Starfleet, and then go to conventions and just engage fans and tell them stories about being on the ship. Just like those guys with like the hat that says U.S. Army or Navy or whatever, has their ship silhouette, like sit around at bars and talk about, the days in the war or whatever. Like my grandpa was one of those World War II veteran, right? He loved to do that. And so I called up my friend Glenn Hambley, who played many, many Andorians and Vulcans and all kinds of things. And he was there from day one on Enterprise, and he had a featured thing on the final episode of Voyager. Like he was in it deep. But he and I stayed friends, and I called him up last year and said, hey man, you want to do something crazy with me? Here's my idea. Let's just go to the Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle and talk to people in Star Trek outfits and invite them to dinner to hear stories about being on the ship. So we went and did it, and it was fun. And a couple people showed up, even though we went on Sunday, like not even the busiest Star Trek day. And from there, I got in touch with others that had worked on the show that I remember and that I knew. And they were like, that sounds like a lot of fun. Let's definitely do that. Got on like Portal 47 and Transporter Room podcast to like kind of pitch this thing. And one thing and another, I got connected to Ryan T. Husk, who does many things, Seventh Rule, et cetera, but also coordinates a lot of the goings on for STLV. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to see if we could get free tickets. Just be like, hey, here's what we do. Would this add enough value to the convention to for you to throw us some free passes? And he's like, yeah, I'll give you some free passes. You can earn them if you do a panel. And I'm like, twist my arm, why don't you? So
you're like, oh, shucks.
Yeah, darn, we have to do a panel.
Darn
That's
it.
Work.
Talk to fans. This is ridiculous.
I know. And be all official and stuff. Come on.
Rude.
But yeah, I made it. I know, right? I made a logo and I got socials, and 6 of us went to STLV and did the panel, and Larry Nemechek moderated it for us. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Totally life-changing. And so we're doing that. And it's kind of opening up into a bigger thing of drawing more attention to the people that did the lower decks job on the ship, either on camera or off camera. That's kind of what we're going for, is, to say these big actors have many stories to tell, but they've been telling them for a long time. And we who were there for a lot of the same moments, we have a different take on it, for one thing. And for another thing, we've got different stories. And some of us are actually found that a lot of the group that went to STLV, basically all of us, were Star Trek fans from child age. So when we got on Star Trek, we were just like fan freaking out, right? Like, yeah, you walk onto the set, you got the outfit, but then my first day was on the bridge, in the back of the bridge, and I expected green screens on the screens and stuff. Nope, they were alive. It was moving. Like all the stuff was like real, and it felt like I was there. So every day I had to just tell myself, be cool, man, be cool. Like, this is a job, do the job well, and don't freak out. So that, to the perspective of being a fan first and then getting to be on Star Trek, even though all of us were pursuing an acting career just to, because we love acting. Yeah. But that added thing just made it so extra special for us. And I'm learning that is a kind of new, fresh angle that we get to share with people. So it's telling our stories straight up. And
And
thank goodness for Mike McMahon and Lower Decks, because it kind of, inspired the name Letter Decks for our
yeah,
group.
and it's a way to connect with fans, right? Because
Totally.
you're a fan yourself, and also being there, like you said, on like I've talked to other background actors. I've talked to David Jones. I've talked to Olivia Youngers, and they both said the same thing. I cannot believe I'm on this set. Especially for
Yeah.
Olivia, who was on the set of Picard, and she grew up with TNG, and she grew up with Voyager, and 7 and 9 was her favorite character, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, there's Jerry Ryan." She's like, "Be cool, be cool." I'm
Yeah.
totally get
I'd be
it.
freaking
Yeah,
out on
so
that one, especially too. I grew up with TNG as well. Yeah, good
yeah,
times.
so those are those moments, but it's just amazing for you guys to be able to experience that, not only as a fan but as an actor.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what I like to highlight. I like to highlight those different stories, not just talking to the actor. And like you said, these actors have been saying the same story for years, and bless their hearts
hmm
for just being like, "Oh, I've never heard this question before," and answer it like with such
I mean, yeah,
enthusiasm.
it's cool. It's cool bringing that acting skill, right? But also, I want to make clear, I'm not throwing shade at anybody. Those
No,
those
no.
stories have so much value. Plus,
Right.
having experienced a Star Trek focused convention for the first time in going to STLV, I would go to every single one if I could, because
Oh,
the
yeah.
the vibe is so loving and so welcoming and encouraging to people.
Hmm.
It's such a unique atmosphere to be in, to go to something like that. And I mean, I'll be going to these forever as long as they don't kick me out. It's just great. I love it.
Same.
I love the whole thing. Yeah.
It's a unique experience. My first time in
hmm
STLV was in 2022. I went to 2023, and then I came back last year, and you miss
Cool.
it. Like all of a sudden it's like, man, I mean, it's tiring. Don't get me wrong. It's 5 days of just a lot of people talking, interacting.
And a
And
lot
by
of
the end, you're
walking.
like, a lot of walking and you're exhausted. But then when you get home, you're like, oh, I wish I was back over there talking
Yeah,
about Star
totally.
Trek, you know? So I totally get it. Now, if there was any chance, there's still Trek happening, right? We got Starfleet Academy. I would love a
Indeed.
legacy. Probably not going to happen, but whatever. If
I
there's any
mean,
chance for you to cross the fingers, would you go back? Would you be on Trek again? Would you be a background
oh,
actor or maybe a main character this time?
oh gosh. I mean, okay, first of all, would I go back and act on Trek again in a heartbeat? Are you kidding me? I mean,
Yeah.
any of them. I don't even care which one. Like like I said kind of at the beginning, I find something of value in every single one. I have more and lesser favorites of all the different things, but I would love to. I've actually been like kind of working in my mind, like if they do a season 3, how do I get on? How do I get on Starfleet Academy? I'd have to be an instructor or an alien or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where my
Yeah.
head goes. But that's kind of one of the things that I started exploring when we moved out of the entertainment industry into a different state, was what do I actually want to do? What do I love to do? And I was over here trying to pursue a different corporate job, because I worked for the studios, and had a corporate level manager job in a global scope, right, for them. And I was trying to look for jobs like that, but really, like, that stuff wasn't working out. Meantime, I start this letter decks thing and it explodes, and I'm not getting paid for it. And it just started making me think, like, everybody I talked to too, who found out, and I don't lead with it, by the way. I don't walk up to everybody and be like, hey, guess what? My name is Duncan. I was on Star Trek. That's a little off-putting. But when it came up, one of the consistent questions was, would you ever consider going back to acting, which is what you're asking, right? And I have to say, having given it a lot of thought, yes, I would love to. And my wife has been pushing me to do voice acting, and in fact, I recently met the impeccable John Champion, who is with Roddenberry Entertainment, and they have,
Yeah.
of course, the Mission Log, slew of different podcasts.
Yeah.
And he and I just met. Like, I met him because a friend of mine who still lives in LA is in a James Bond fan club, and so is John, and they met at that.
Sweet.
And my friend is like, you need to talk to my friend Duncan. He does Star Trek stuff. So we had like a virtual coffee hangout, and after that he's like, hey, I got this like audio drama voice script thing, would you want to do that? Would you want to like put some voice files to me and whatever. I'm like, yeah, man, put me in. I'm good. Let's do it. And I was just thinking of it like, hey, let me just do a favor for John because he's a cool guy and it's fun.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking I need to get into voice acting, and I have a whole idea for like my own sound booth in my home. So I put that together real fast. And he sent me the script, and it was for the episode of Genealogy that came out last week, episode 89, Defiance County. And he gave me the part of Sheriff Ripley, which was like the bulk of the lines. And I recorded like 4 different versions, and they chose one that was a little more country, and they put it up, and I was like, oh wow, quick turnaround. That was really that's awesome. And I'm like feeling good about it. And then suddenly I get a credit on IMDb for it. Mind you, I have an IMDb profile that's got stuff, right? But I haven't had a new credit in like 17 years or something. So
Okay.
I didn't know I was going to get that. Like there were no conditions and no pay around this thing. It was just like fun, gets me off my ass about doing voice work, and met John, and he's cool, and I'll do, all the things. But now that, and I'm just like, well, isn't that just a work of fate, kick in the butt to like keep going? So
Yeah.
I'm definitely pursuing that. Like I'm checking out the local thing here. I'm going to go to a big audition that they have in Seattle for the
cool.
agencies around here later this month, and just see if I can get myself out there, start doing commercials, voice work, whatever.
Nice.
And, once I start getting, knocking the rust off of my tools, I'm going to be hitting up people that I know back in town and being like, hey guys, I like to do the acting thing again. What's up?
How you doing?
We'll see how it goes.
Well.
Yes. How you been?
And the voice acting stuff, like even Gates is doing a lot of that, right? She's now Mother Ascani in X-Men 97. We had just Star Trek Con. And I think that's a brilliant idea. A lot of people listen to podcasts, audiobooks, whatever. If we don't get a legacy in TV form, I would love to hear it in an audio drama,
Like a radio drama. Yeah. That is super cool.
I mean, as long as I'm getting more Beverly Crusher, I'm
nice.
I'm good.
Nice.
But
I want to make a note, by the way, since I'm on your show, that when I watched TNG, and I that was formative for me. Like Next Generation was my show. I always had a bigger crush on Dr. Crusher than I did on Deanna Troi or any of those other people. And I got to meet Gates in quick passing in the halls in STLV. I got to meet Marina, though, the last day of shooting in Enterprise. I got to be in that episode, and she and the impeccable Mr. Frakes were both working on that, of course. So I got to chat with them, and I got pictures with them and stuff. But yeah, Beverly was always my little crush on the show. So.
Oh yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. I've always heard a lot of people like, "Oh, I was crushing on Crusher," and I was like, I could see why. It's fine.
Yep. There needs to be a line of merch for that. Just saying.
Crush it. Well, you know what? I might. I mean, I have a whole TeePublic store of just like different Crusher, stuff. I'd be like, hey, if you love Crusher, here you go. But anyways, Duncan, this was such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let the listeners know where they can find you.
You can go to www.letterdex.com and find links to all of our socials. And there's a little write-up there about it. It's a crap website. I know. I'm going to be getting it fixed, but at least it links you over. We're on Instagram and Facebook primarily, and we are on Threads and Blue Sky as well for now. Working in, managing all that myself amidst everything else. And if you want to see some more interviews of us, the Transporter Room, Trekking Up North, and I just did a Trekcommendations that's coming out in a couple of weeks. So,
nice.
All you guys all know each other and stuff. And we had the whole panel from STLV on the Transporter Room. And so you can check it out. Yeah. A little virtual con there. So that's where you can find us. Oh, and one more note, the letter in Letterdex, I should have said, is a reference to Enterprise specifically because our ship is the only one where the decks have letters instead of numbers. So, Letterdex.
Oh, nice. Okay. I always wondered. And I was like, is there like a letter campaign? Did they do?
Oh, no. Yes, the ship. Our ship.
It's the ship. That totally makes sense.
Mhm.
I'm still I'm just barely finishing Enterprise. Like it took me a hot second, and then I'm going to get into Discovery, which I'm excited about. But yeah,
Nice.
See, I've watched it all backwards, really, but I enjoyed it.
Hey,
I
as
really,
long as
really
you can
did.
rearrange it in your mind, it's all timey-wimey eventually anyway, right?
Always. Yeah, I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I definitely can. I could do it.
Nice.
It's fine.
Nice.
Huge
You
River
can-
Song fan, so if I could figure that out, anything.
There you go. There you go. That's the test.
All right. Exactly. All right,
Yeah.
Duncan, thank you. Live long
Thanks
and
for having me
prosper,
on so
everyone.
much. Looking forward
Thank
to
you
being
so
on
much.
maybe another time and elsewhere.
Yeah. And I'll see you at STLV.
Definitely. See you there.
Crusher out.